Hey, Mr. Maz here, standing in my kitchen, which brings me to our next math problem. When we were on the little hiatus where we weren't sure what was going on with school because of the COVID-19, we had some extra free time, so we decided that we needed a new kitchen floor. I am definitely a do-it-yourselfer, and if you're going to be a do-it-yourselfer, you need to use a little bit of math, so that's what we're going to be looking at for this assignment. I have conveniently placed a tape measure here so you kind of get an idea of what kind of math we need. And you'll see that the length that we're looking at right here is 96 inches. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you the dimensions of my kitchen. But basically, if you were going to put down flooring, you need to use some math to find the area and find how many packages of material you are going to need based on that area. I'm going to back up a little bit so you can kind of see the layout of the kitchen. You can see my daughter's science experiment for her school right now. But it's made up of obviously a bunch of rectangles. There is a little rectangle here for where the garbage can is. A much larger rectangle for the main part of the kitchen, and then also, I know you can't see it underneath the stove or the fridge, but there is flooring under there as well as kind of two separate rectangles. Here's the layout of my kitchen with the measurements. Note that it is definitely not drawn to scale, so we're just going to assume right angles and just go by the measurements given. I've also included a little screenshot of the tile that I used, and the important information from that is the fact that it is 23.25 square feet per case. So one case is going to cover 23.25 square feet of area in my kitchen. And what's important to recognize from that is we're dealing with square feet there, but all of the dimensions that I have in my kitchen are in inches. So at some point, we're going to have to tackle the beast of converting square inches into square feet. The first thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through a quick little example of how to find the area of this and then how to find out how many cases. But I'm going to leave the majority of the work up to you for your eventual assignment here. So first thing, I'm going to look at just this. Well, let's look at this whole thing first to give you an idea of what you need to do. So my kitchen obviously isn't one big rectangle. It's made up of a bunch of different rectangles. So if I go ahead and look straight across here and here, I've got two small rectangles. And if I go straight across here, I've got a third larger rectangle and then a fourth rectangle there. So in the end, what we would have to do is find the areas of each individual rectangle and then add them together to get the total area of my kitchen. And then we can use that total area to figure out how many cases of tile I would need. So let's go ahead. Let's just start off with this rectangle down here. All right. So the area for a rectangle is pretty simple. Most people are aware of this and use this all the time. Length times width. So the length and the width of this particular rectangle is 24 inches by 52 inches. So obviously we need to take 24 times 52, but we also have to make sure that we are doing inches times inches. And the reason that that's important is for our units here. All right, when you ever take something multiplied by itself, that allows you to use exponents. So that gives you the square inches. So the area of this particular rectangle, if we did 24 times 52, I would get 1,248 square inches. All right. Now, what we have to talk about is what does a square inch mean, and specifically what does a square foot mean? So I'm going to go off to the side here and talk about that for a second. Let's go ahead and start with a square foot. All right, so a square, as we all know, every side is the same. And if we had to find the area of this square, we would just take 1 foot times 1 foot, and that's where the 1 square foot comes into play. All right. Now, this is why this is not just as easy as taking 1,248 square inches and dividing by 12 to get how many square feet it is, because while there are 12 inches in a foot, there are not 12 square inches in a square foot. And this is going to kind of show how that works. So while this square is 1 square foot, as we just talked about, there are 12 inches in a foot. So if I'm looking at taking 12 times 12 instead, this is 144 square inches. So what's important to remember is 1 square foot actually equals 144 square inches. So when we need to take this area of 1,248 square inches and change it into square feet, we need to divide this by 144. And dividing that by 144 gives us about 8.7 square feet. All right. So what you would have to do in this situation is find the area of all of these rectangles, add them all together, and then make sure that you convert the square inches correctly into square feet, and then figure out how many cases. And that's, once again, just a division problem to figure out how many cases you would need, dividing the total area by 23.25. You're going to get an assignment in the Google Classroom. It will have this exact drawing, so you know the measurements of the kitchen. I'm also going to include the screenshot of how many square feet this case can handle. And there's going to be questions, obviously, about finding the areas, but there's also going to be questions about rounding and estimating, and when should you round down, when should you round up, when is it okay to violate the rules of rounding. For example, if you had something like 2.3, mathematical rule said rounding to the nearest whole number you would take 2, but there are certain situations where you actually want to round up to 3. All right, so that's a strong hint for the assignment here. But like I said, that assignment I will put in the Google Classroom. There will be a copy that you are to make and put your answers on it, and then turn it back into me through the Google Classroom in the literacy folder. Good luck, and if you have any questions, you can email me or use my Zoom session in any of my scheduled office hours.